first. So Ken and I were talking about the NFL, and Ken, I don't know if you saw this. The president put out a tweet earlier today where he said, last week everybody had their say, and everybody expressed themselves in ways that he didn't agree with. But 180 players or so took a knee or didn't show up for the national anthem. This week, as of like an hour or two ago, now we still had some more games, but as of like an hour ago, 11.
Good.
You know what speaks pretty loudly? The pocketbooks
people
of America. Yeah. And look, Ken, like you were saying, can we have, and this is pretty amazing for somebody like me to say this, because my wife is always like, to me, can you just not talk about politics for 3 seconds? Can you not make the orange juice about politics?
That's what my wife says.
Because I'll figure some way to make Florida orange juice about.
You see?
Yeah. Exactly. She'll be like, really? Just let the orange juice be free. Free the orange juice, So, but I'm going to say this. Can we have something sacred, Can we watch an NFL football game together? Can I watch it with my Democratic friends or my Libertarian friends or my friends who don't give a rip about politics? And can we just watch football and talk about stupid stats and
have a few beverages?
Yeah, eat some nachos, watch our fantasy players, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way. Honestly, Ken, if I didn't have a fantasy team this year, my buddies always drag me into this. I'm not a huge sports nut. I like sports. I mainly like golf. I was golfing in Florida this week, by the way. I'm not rubbing that in.
Yeah, you are.
It was wet down there. Oh, let me sidebar for a second.
Okay.
So I went down to a conference on Miami South Beach, and Dean Plocher doesn't realize I'm a South Beach guy. He didn't know I had all the ripped T-shirts and the fake baked tan. Yeah.
The T-shirt gives it away.
Yeah. I got my Journey T-shirt on tonight. I wore this for Dean because we're like from the same generation.
I have my Afton football T-shirt on because
exactly
that's about as high up on football as I'm going to watch.
Oh, speaking of, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. Second sidebar. You just reminded me. I got to give a shout out. Hopefully she's still listening to Margie from Afton. We have an 89-year-old fan.
Hi, Margie.
Afton. So hello to Margie.
Hi, neighbor.
Margie said, and Margie is representative. The reason I'm bringing Margie up, she's representative of where a lot of Americans are these days. She said, she called me this week because she ran into she couldn't remember who they were. Some friends of mine or colleagues, maybe from the radio station or some political people, and they're like, she had a question or something, and they're like, hey, call Tim Jones. I got people handing my number out all over the area. Isn't that great? No, it's fine. Because Margie was like, I just wanted you to know that there's old people like me out here, and we're still alive, and we're still voting, and I think she was an old school. She never really said what she was, but I think she said she voted for Barack Obama at one point. And she said, I wish they'd stop picking on this man Trump because he's trying to save America. I'm like, if Margie, the South Side, I'm gonna stereotype her here a little bit, maybe blue collar Democrat from Afton, can have that opinion about Trump, then maybe CNN can as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
or CNN, how about this? Not have an opinion.
Right, maybe just not have an opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so let me back up now. Okay, so I was in South Beach, and I want to report to folks that the buildings are generally okay. So I flew into Fort Lauderdale, so I drove all the way down to Key Biscayne, which is the top key. It's like way up north. It's not like, don't think I wasn't down in like Key West. I was like an hour, not even. I was 45 minutes south of Fort Lauderdale, half an hour south of Miami. So I'm in that off on that. Key Biscayne's out in the ocean. You cross a causeway and you're out in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
So I was figuring, okay, I'm going to see pretty much the depth of it, and they've already cleaned up a lot. But the buildings, I would say, are generally fine. The palm trees and the beaches took a beating, and I don't say that tongue in cheek. I say that's what happened.
Yeah.
The beaches are freaking flattened. It looks like someone took a giant iron and just boom, like. The whole beach. It's just flat as a pancake.
Is that from just blowing the sand away?
Yeah. I actually played golf with a couple of guys from down there. They hooked me up with them, a couple of guys from Fort Lauderdale. And I said, so what happened? They're like, well, the beach ended up on the street, basically.
Yeah.
It just kind of washed up and was left on the street. And I asked these fellas, Frank and Mario, shout out to Frank and Mario down in Fort Lauderdale, in case they're listening. They're big fans now, by the way. And I said, well, how was it? They said, well, big wind event, big rain event. not a lot of massive amount of damage, but just kind of, it wasn't. They said it wasn't fun,
Right.
but they did okay. The other side of the state, I can tell you, I spoke with my company's CFO, Cassie. So I work for the First Rule Media Network. That's my day job. I'm their comms director. Anyway, our CFO is down in the Fort Myers area, and she said it was pretty rough there. Trees like down everywhere, standing water everywhere, real brackish, kind of smelling,
Yeah.
But she said, they're getting things back. We're lucky. We're on the mainland. So if you're in Florida, right, you can have all the surrounding states that didn't get affected. South Carolina a little affected. Let's go, you can have everybody from Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, New York. I mean, all those agents, fire, police, National Guard, Army, military, Navy, FEMA, they can all just, they just drive, fly, they're there, right?
Right.
Puerto Rico, totally different. It's an island. I know the media is making fun of Trump for re-explaining to people that it's an island surrounded by water. But what he meant was, it's not like you can drive down the street and go help out the people in Puerto Rico. You can't drive to Puerto Rico. You can't run the tanks into Puerto Rico.
No, logistically, it's completely different
Right.
than Texas or Florida.
First, to get to Puerto Rico, you go as far as you can on the mainland down to Florida. And I've done this trip because I told you earlier in the last hour, one of my very best friends in the world is Jose Benitez. And Jose Benitez is an attorney who works for an employment defense firm, a Spanish-English bilingual firm, big firm, in San Juan. And I've been going to Puerto Rico since I was 19, 20 years old. Went down on spring break, and I visited Jose a couple of times. It's a beautiful island. I love going there. But, folks, before the hurricane, Puerto Rico was teetering on the brink of being a third world country, okay? Donald Trump did not cause the logistical problems of salvaging a nation after 3 freaking hurricanes have blown through it. If you talk to a real Puerto Rican, which I do, and I've been texting with Jose for like the last 3 weeks. Hey, man, are you okay? Is everything all right? Yes, it's okay. It's really bad. I'm going to read you, and I'm going to try to get him on the show, actually, Ken, in the next week or two. I'm going to try to get Jose on the show because it would be fascinating to hear. But here's what Jose told me like 2 weeks ago. He said, this was Monday. This was a week ago. Jose said, Tim, things are getting extremely difficult. Although the government, and he's talking about his Puerto Rican government, okay, the lefties. Puerto Rico did have a Republican governor not too long ago. I met him. His name is Luis Fortuña. Luis is a great guy. Luis served 1 term. He tried to make some massive reforms. Basically, the liberal class revolted against him, and basically he knew he wasn't going to get reelected. So he's like, okay, I tried. Fine, I'm out. He's working for a big, fancy D.C. firm now, and I don't blame him at all because he tried. He tried really hard. Luis did. So now there's a Democrat in charge. There's Democrats basically in charge of everything down there. Republicans it's like being a Republican in Illinois, maybe worse in Puerto Rico. So Jose says, although the government says there's gasoline and diesel, it's not reaching the gas stations, the supermarkets, the banks, and other businesses. Because there's no diesel, the ATMs are not operating and people are running out of cash. Because 95% of the communications are down, there's no phone, internet, emails. We cannot use credit cards or ATM cards. And then he kind of said tongue-in-cheek, but he was very serious. At the very end, he says, send in the Navy. Well, guess what President Trump did? Now, I'm not saying I called up the president, told him my buddy Jose. But President Trump did what Puerto Ricans needed to have done. He literally sent in the Navy.
Yeah, aircraft carriers, didn't he? Or
Yes.
1 or 2 or
Yes.
something.
And the problems, like Jose pointed out, the problem was not getting the stuff there. It was all there. It was sitting there. They didn't need to suspend the Jones Act. We can talk to Dean about the Jones Act later. It's this complicated maritime act about things shipped to U.S. from U.S. ports. Yeah, the SOS Comfort, Navy ship, right, Dean?
The USS Comfort sent in.
USS Comfort, right?
Yeah.
So what Jose could explain, I'm going to try to get him on in the next few weeks if he's able to, once things are fully up, is that everything was sitting there. All of the supplies, the diesel, it was all there. But because Puerto Rico has been run poorly and mismanaged to the point where it's probably worse than Illinois, they don't have the infrastructure on the island. You can't get diesel from point A to point B if the road literally no longer exists. Okay? What's Trump supposed to do? Airlift in a bunch of cement trucks and start repaving roads? I mean, eventually they'll do that. But these idiots in the media who wanted him to wave a magic wand and make Puerto Rico fine are just clueless. U.S. Virgin Islands. That governor thinks the response from President Trump's administration has been fantastic. Now, they didn't get the brunt of it like Puerto Rico did, but it's been fine. Some other things. The Democratic governor that I was maligning a little bit a few minutes ago has had nothing but positive words to say about the president. The media has seized upon one mayor from San Juan, that crazy left-wing lunatic who's been trying to get press for herself because she's been trashing Trump. That's it. One person. You talk to and you look at the media reports on the other things, Trump is doing everything he can. They want this to be as Katrina. It's not going to be as Katrina.
It won't be. No, it can't be.
Yeah.
No.
And he did a great job in Texas with Governor Abbott. Trump did a great job in Florida with Governor Rick Scott. Look what happens when you have these governors, Republican governors of Republican states that have their act together. You know what happens. And it happens quickly and it happens well.
And they get the job done.
Gets the job done. Trump is doing all he can for the people of Puerto Rico. And I have friends there who are telling me that that's true. And now, actually, I'm happy to report things are getting better. 3 days ago, there was like 200 gas stations open on the entire island. That's a pretty good size island, in case you've never been there. I mean, you can drive north to south, takes you like 3 hours or so. East to west, it's like 7-8 hour drive. It's not a small island. There's now almost 1,000 gas stations open. So they're getting things back online. They're getting commerce flowing again. But there's no magic wand. They just got devastated by 3 Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
So.
And they were also, I heard, they were coming off of the one, and the ground was saturated completely. There was nothing, no place that the water could go to.
Correct.
The next one, the following one, Maria, I think it was. Maria,
yes.
That was the one that just nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else just,
the low-lying areas, you're going to be below sea level. And I saw this down in Miami. So the first day and a half I was there, it was nice. It was typical Miami weather, blue skies, very sunny. It was beautiful. The next day, the tropical storms rolled in. And it was those heavy clouds that just dump rain. It just comes down in sheets. The water table down there is so high, immediately rivers form everywhere. So even in Florida, things are still, they're not out of the woods yet. We got to get out of this rainy season next.
They need to stop politicizing this tragic
That's exactly
event.
right.
And as Rahm Emanuel would say, don't let a good disaster go to waste.
Yeah, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Go to waste,
right?
yeah.
So, well, hey, the aforementioned Representative Dean Plocher here in studio. Dean, how you doing this weekend?
I'm doing great. I had a great weekend.
Good. Your son's in baseball, is that right?
Well, soccer this weekend.
Soccer.
Soccer tournament.
Is he a superstar athlete like you?
He's better than I am. He's a good athlete though. He's fun. He's got a good heart and he enjoys it.
Well, good. Well, you're no longer you were a special election baby, so you're not a freshman at all anymore, are you? Technically, you've lived through 2 sessions, sort of.
I'm like a redshirt freshman. I think is the term.
I like that. I like that. Redshirt freshman. Well, we'll talk to redshirt freshman State Representative Dean Plocher when we come back here on the Tim Jones Show all evening this evening. You're at FM News Talk 97.1.
The Tim Jones Show.
He's in bed with Putin and the Russians about oil.
On FM News Talk 97.1.
Traffic reports at your fingertips. Real-time traffic online. Log on to 971talk.com for real-time traffic updates.
Brought to you by Frank Lita Acura. With 0.9% financing going on now. Can't beat a Lita. Online at litaacura.com.
You've heard of personal shoppers, personal trainers, and personal assistants. Why not a personal doctor? That's what you'll get with personalized concierge medicine at Palm Health, located in the heart of Ladue. Our primary care physicians and medical specialists get to know you inside and out and offer a customized, comprehensive approach for you to lead a healthier lifestyle and sustained well-being. Discover the benefits of personalized concierge medicine and a tailor-made health plan today. Call 314-801-8898 for a tour or visit palmhealth.com.
Hey, I want to thank my good friends John Stobbs and Jeannie Seabaugh over at Convergent Wealth Management for sponsoring the show. I mean, they were the first ones out of the gate. We had a new little live at the top of the show, and Ken's gonna fancy that up a little bit. Maybe we make this the Convergent Wealth Management Studios or something like that. But anyway, Convergent Wealth Management, Wealth for the Way. They're a faith-based operation driven by your values and mine. They're a full-service firm that does. They do the financial stuff, they do the insurance stuff, they do the tax stuff. What more do you need? That's your complete package. I need to call John tomorrow. I owe him a phone call, and you do too, because I bet you've been sitting around this weekend talking to your spouse, your significant other, about your needs. And do you have everything on the right page or not? Do you have the whole picture? That's what I feel that they can take all those buckets and put it into one streamlined approach. It is truly Wealth for the Way. It's your comprehensive path to financial freedom. Convergent Wealth Management, convergentwm.com, convergentwm.com. Call them tomorrow, 636-536-1800. Convergent Wealth Management, it's Wealth for the Way.
For more than 20 years, Arrowhead Building Supplies customers in St. Peters have had to drive through our industrial park to visit us, often waiting behind big trucks or dealing with the park's railroad crossing. Well, our brand new Salt River Road entrance is now open for our customers, with direct access to our property. Our priority is to bring value to you, and once again, we've delivered. Our new entrance on Salt River Road is big, beautiful, and built just for you. Come try it out and see our showroom. Now also featuring the incredible new Arrowhead Cube Home Visualizer. ArrowheadBuildingSupply.com.
America's veterans are more than a source of pride. They're a source of strength. When our veterans thrive, our communities thrive. With your support, our veterans can get career and education opportunities as well as benefits they've earned.
Hi, I'm Congressman Rodney Davis. Join me in thanking our nation's veterans. They've given so much. Find out how you can support veterans in our community.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Radio moves. Radio breathes. Radio never sleeps. And Next Radio keeps up. It goes where you go, so you never miss a beat. It's live, it's local, it's a connection. A shared experience, just you and your radio. And a couple million people, give or take. Next Radio keeps up. You thought that phone couldn't get any smarter? Well, it got simpler. It got leaner. It's got your back. And it'll keep you moving, winning, in the know. And it'll get you where you want to go. All in the palm of your hand. Next Radio, live and local, wherever you go.
Listen to your favorite FM stations with the free Next Radio app. Live and local, wherever you go. Download the free Next Radio app today.
My name is Dale Pazinski, and this is how I live United. I volunteer with United Way, helping the homeless in my community by teaching computer skills and helping them build a basic resume to save on their very own USB drive. It's huge when somebody says, "Hey man, that job that you helped me apply for, I got it." My name is Dale Pazinski. I help people achieve financial independence. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Moment of crisis.
An important moment.
Begging for war.
Hear about it?
This is not a little matter.
We should all take a moment.
Seize the moment. Talk about it.
You know, it's always amazing to me how phony the liberals are, and you can tell their outrage about this is phony.
St. Louis's FM News Talk.
That is why we are here.
This is a moment in time, a moment in history.
This is the moment.
And I'll say it right now.
FM News Talk.
The urgency is now.
Could strike at any moment.
97.1.
Been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, and Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fists. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list, but she said, where'd you wanna go?
This is the Tim Jones Show. Call now, 314-969-9797. Or 866-455-9797.
This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to pass tax reform and to restore our jobs, our wealth, and our great American dreams. We will be able to dream again, and those dreams will be met. Now it's time, finally, for Congress to deliver. The problem we have is the Democrats don't want to cut your taxes. They want to actually raise your taxes and raise them very substantially. We can't afford to do that as a country. That's why our jobs are leaving. That's why you don't have enough left in your paycheck. We want to cut taxes, and it's going to be the biggest tax cut in the history of our country.
Absolutely. Yes, it will be. It'll be huge.
Huge.
Hey, welcome to the Tim Jones Show. It is Sunday evening, October 1st, here at FM News Talk 97.1. We're broadcasting from the Heartland to you around the world. 971talk.com/Tim Jones on Facebook or Twitter, at Speaker Tim Jones, at Speaker Tim Jones on Facebook or Twitter. Ken, we have shot well over 7,000 followers, approaching 7,100.
Awesome.
Picked up another 100 last week.
A new goal has to be produced.
That's
here.
right. That's right. I want 10,000 by the end of the year. So, joining me now in studio, the promised Representative Dean Plocher from the beautiful country manses of Town and Country, right?
Indeed.
You put the country in Town and Country. Is that the phrase?
I have been said to put the country in Town and Country with my endorsements of the Cattlemen's Association.
Isn't that great? Some of the things you learn about Dean that you never knew existed in your life before when you go to Jefferson City.
It is.
What's been the biggest surprise to you?
The camaraderie, actually. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been 2 years now, and the camaraderie amongst all of my colleagues is good. We do talk about things a lot better than what the media sort of reports here, so that's been a nice surprise. Yeah,
Dean, state government actually functions, right? It really does.
It does. People expect miracles, and this is a democracy. Things aren't supposed to happen, turn on a dime, and our laws are supposed to be well thought out as best as possible and given consideration from all sides.
Now, Dean, I met you years ago when you were thinking about your first run, and I think you were thinking about U.S. or state senate at that time, and then you decided not to do that. And then you swung back around. So your wife only talked you off the ledge for so long, right? And then you just had to jump.
I wouldn't be here without my wife's support. She's really the driving mechanism behind sort of lighting this fire to get started to do this. So I'm grateful for her. Stepping off the ledge the first time was the best thing that ever happened to me. My children were particularly young at the time.
Right.
Now they're 8 and 10, and I'm really glad that I was able to stay home longer, practice law, and now get up to Jeff City and do what I can do.
So you have 2 full sessions under your belt now?
Yes.
That's right. So number 3, can you believe number 3 is coming up in like 3 months?
It does fly by, and it's not a part-time job either. That's the other surprise, I guess, is that they say you're there January through May. Well, you're there in Jeff City, but there's a lot of other things to get done during the off season. Many things, and so I'm looking forward to. Honestly, it'll put this sort of chapter down, and then I get back to January. But then it's the travel, and it's a different agenda as well.
Absolutely. So I've been talking a lot about the president's substantive plans. The media wants to talk about everything but, right? Because it doesn't fit their agenda. They want to talk about race and racial tension, and he's a sexist and a homophobe and a xenophobe and an everything phobe. But I've been talking a lot on this station, like the other commentators do, about some of the substantive things he's been doing, like cracking down on North Korea, and we're seeing now that's having an effect, like the tax plan. Let me ask you first about the tax plan. You all are probably going to have that discussion on the state level, I would imagine.
I hope we have
next
a tax
year as well.
plan discussion at the state level.
Where are you on income tax, cutting taxes, fair tax? What's Dean Plocher, Representative Dean Plocher's legislative agenda on tax policy?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be carrying into the tax bills, but I don't think it should come as any surprise to anyone that knows me, is that I don't believe, as Reagan said, you can tax your way into prosperity. I think by paying large sums of taxes or tax percentages, you're actually discouraging good production in society. You're penalizing people for performing, and that's not what society is intended to do. So I would, in particular, I think we need to address some of these entitlements as well as the taxing of the working poor.
Mm-hmm.
The working poor have a hard time getting by as it is. Our tax code doesn't necessarily help them, but the entitlements that exist out there don't always encourage them to work as well.
And isn't it, Dean, and in honor of Reagan, one of our last great presidents until this one, I think Donald Trump's really going to, especially if he can get this tax plan through, he's going to go down as one of the greater presidents, I believe, and on his international relations work. In honor of Reagan, I have on a great T-shirt from a great band from the 80s, Journey. So for anybody watching the webcam,
Indeed.
we're celebrating Journey tonight.
The
so.
webcam, they're not going to be able to pick up that spray-on tan from Miami.
That's right. I'll have to work maybe a little harder on that. I got the little John Boehner going on. Yeah. So
I don't know if anyone can quite emulate that. I know I couldn't.
But Dean, that's what happened after the Reagan. You and I were both alive. We're of that generation, and I remember. My father's a small business owner. He's a veterinarian. I remember Dad was kind of just getting his second office going at that time, and happy days were here again in the late 80s and early 90s because we had our fiscal house in order during that time.
Indeed. And I mean, we talked about, or you talked about Puerto Rico earlier. They don't have their fiscal house in order. I believe they're, $100 billion in debt. But we practice policies that don't necessarily encourage responsible spending and responsibility by people too big to fail. Are we going to bail out Puerto Rico? If we bail out Puerto Rico, do we have to bail out Illinois? Then do we have to bail out California?
And then New
I
York.
certainly hope not. I mean, at some point, people, just as we run our house, we should have to run our government. I'm proud to say that Missouri's balanced budget is great. Our economy, I believe, is growing a little bit faster than what we had expected. And we have to run the books in Missouri as we do in our house.
Going back to something you said earlier about the working poor, and isn't it also, I think it's immoral that that you have people getting entitlements who shouldn't be?
Well, it's been said to me by people that come in, and I feel my job as a state rep is to listen to the concerns of those that I represent, and as well as all of Missourians. And I feel for people that you clearly see should qualify for certain programs. And then I see other people leeching off of programs they should never qualify for. It's not about being disabled and collecting. It's about collecting. And that's the problem.
Exactly. Hey, Dean, can we got about, a couple minutes? Couple, 3 minutes? Okay. I may get into this. Well, let me set it up first. And you're an attorney, and we won't hold that against you because I am one too. And we're attorneys, we're politicians. So it's already 2 strikes against us, right?
If you were a lobbyist, you'd have 3 strikes.
Yeah. So I work with lobbyists. I guess that's close enough. And you used to be on the bench, right?
I did.
You were a judge in Pine Lawn,
albeit the lowest ranking court, sort of, in the state of Missouri. Don't put me up
how
there.
Cool is that, though? You got to wear the black robes and all that.
It was an honor.
Yeah, it truly was. Before I ask you a zillion questions about this, have you looked at the Stockley case at all with your lawyer judge hat on? Have you read any of? Have you looked into it?
I haven't read the verdict.
More than the common duck, maybe.
Well, I haven't read the verdict from beginning to end.
The 29 pages.
Verdict. Yeah, something like that. It's a rather comprehensive verdict. I was appreciative of what the judge threw in there. Judge Wilson. I mean, it's not like he's a rookie judge. He's been on the bench. He's going to have to retire soon. This is
right.
Something
this is a guy who's been around the block.
Yes.
And serving in the city of St. Louis, dealing with probably thousands of cases. Maybe not exactly like this, but probably bearing a lot of similarities. I'm sure he's had his share of felonies cross his desk.
I think he's handled thousands of felonies. He's a very objective judge, and he's very respected in the industry of the lawyers that I know. I've never tried a case in front of the gentleman, but no. After reading through this verdict and hearing the complaints that were out there, I guess I question not the judicial process. The judicial process, in my mind, here served the role that it was intended to serve. It looked at the facts. The judge objectively applied the facts and through thorough and logical conclusions drew the right conclusion. Now, the misnomer here was why the case perhaps was brought in the first place.
Right.
I was stunned, and I didn't sit through the trial, so I didn't watch it.
Because let's remind folks. I always have to remind people about this because our local media and the Post-Disgrace editorial board, some of the biggest race hustlers in the country, they want everybody to forget this very inconvenient fact. President Obama's Department of Justice declined to prosecute Jason Stockley.
They declined
which
to
I
prosecute
think
it,
you tell me, Dean. I think that's a pretty notable fact.
Well, I would certainly think so, especially when you read what the Department of Justice did post-Ferguson and came down and handed down a very strong opinion about what needed to be done with some municipal reform. They didn't come down on this case. Furthermore, this case was not issued for how many years? And then you want to come back in time and reach out and say, hey, there's new evidence, when now the evidence shows there was no new evidence.
Right. I have no problem with people protesting racial bias or systemic racism if they see it, if they think it exists. But, Dean, and let's talk about this now. Okay, I want to talk with you when we come back. Like, okay, where do we go from here? Because I really feel like these people have and when I say that, I mean the folks in the city who are protesting every night, the ones that Jeff Rorta referred to. He said there's 50 or 60 people. They continue to be out there. I don't know that I know what they're protesting at this point. They really seem like they've jumped the shark using this case, holding this up as to amplify the movement. Number one, you've got a heroin dealer. Number two, you got a case from 6 years ago, pre-Ferguson. A lot has changed since then. You and the legislature have done some reforms. So I really feel that the folks, and you know what? When I say these people, you know, I'm not at all being racist. I'm talking about the white liberals. Okay, so I'm talking about the white kids from Ladue who go down to the city and break things and terrorize people. The Antifa, which is a lot of these white rich liberal kids that have no other purpose in life. So I really think the movement, the real movement that goes after real systemic racism has hurt itself. We'll talk with Representative Dean Plocher about that and more when we come back, including Legislative Preview 2018. Dun, 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 here on The Tim Jones Show at FM News Talk 97.1.
The Tim Jones Show.
You have insanity in my earpiece.
On FM News Talk 97.1.
Watch the Mark Cox Show live on the Granite Transformation Studio Cam at 971talk.com/Cox. Log on to our website or use your mobile device to join the daily live stream and watch the show. It's the Granite Transformation Studio Cam at 971talk.com/Cox.
Hey guys, I'm Dr. TJ Williams from the Institute of Natural Health. I would like to invite you to tune in to our show, Wellness 101, Sundays at 3 p.m. During this exciting hour, we will be diving into the health topics that you want to know about. We will be talking about your concerns and giving real-life examples of ways people can heal and the transformations we have seen with our clients. So tune in to Wellness 101, Sundays at 3, where we will cut through the nonsense to provide you common-sense, science-based strategies for a healthy life. That's Wellness 101, Sundays at 3. And you can find us online at theinstituteofnaturalhealth.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members, of their families or their children, asking them to deploy, patrol, stay on watch, on point, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to bring them all the way home, to keep them secure, to have their backs for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs do whatever it takes to help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Find out how you can help at findwwp.org.
Think fast. In the short time it takes to listen to this message, a small flame can turn into a big fire. Several minutes more, and thick, poisonous smoke may have filled your lungs and reduced your ability to respond. Give it 5, and your entire home may be filled with flames.
Keep breathing. We've got you.
Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and practice an escape plan for you and your loved ones. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov, because fire is everyone's fight.
Fox on Family.
Whether it's basketball or Monopoly, it's so tempting to let your kids win. But what does that teach them?
Sometimes you lose. And so it's really important for children to learn how to lose well.
Mother of 4 and Lightbridge Academy President Gigi Schweikert isn't a fan of getting a trophy just for showing up.
What we're seeing now as a result of that, we have millennials who are showing up at the workplace and we're saying, okay, I'm here, I deserve a raise, or I'm here, where's my promotion?
Schweikert says young children need to practice winning so they can feel safe to lose, but age 11 and up should be able to cope with knowing your best doesn't always win, and losing doesn't mean you stop trying.
If people have invested in you, your teachers, your coaches, your parents, and even later on bosses, that your motivation needs to be there. You need to try no matter what.
She says encourage your kids to take pride in the effort, find joy in healthy competition, and strive for excellence, not perfection. With Fox and Family, I'm Lisa Brady.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster?
When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Think fast. In the short time it takes to listen to this message, a small flame can turn into a big fire. Several minutes more, and thick, poisonous smoke may have filled your lungs and reduced your ability to respond. Give it 5, and your entire home may be filled with flames.
Keep breathing. We've got you.
Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and keep heaters 3 feet away from anything that can burn. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov, because fire is everyone's fight.
Janie Ullman in the morning.
President Trump, in terms of trying to make sure there's diminishing inequality in this country, came out with a great idea known as tax reform.
On FM News Talk
97.1.
This is the Tim Jones Show. Call now, 314-969-9797 or 866-455-9797.
The thing I think we learned this week is that Roy Moore and Steve Bannon, what we'll call the nationalists, they have a story to tell. They have a story about the country and why it's going astray. They have a story about what's wrong with Washington and the swamp and why it needs to be drained. The regular Republicans, the Mitch McConnell Republicans, have no story. And they thought they could hold off the nationalists with money and with logistics and with party organization. And I think one of the things we've learned is they can't do that. That if you want to hold off Steve Bannon, you actually have to have an argument, you have to have a story about why his kind of Republican is the wrong kind. And they don't have that, and if they don't have it in Alabama, they're probably not going to have it in Tennessee, and they may not have it in Wyoming, and they may not have it in Arizona, and all the other states where Republicans are up for grabs, at least in the Senate in 2018.
Yeah, New York Times, David Brooks, who I generally think is completely just a mushmouth moderate. He actually hit the nail on the head there, I think. So, Representative Dean Plocher in the studio here. We're wrapping up. The show is almost over again, Ken. We need tell Jeff Allen we need 2 more hours.
2 more.
So, yeah. My wife would kill me. Hey, Dean, I don't know if you heard Brooks there. Brooks was basically saying, look, the reason that Steve Bannon and some of these insurgent candidates are winning is because they have a message that appeals to Americans like Trump did, whereas the swamp creatures on both sides of the aisle seem to just kind of want to do the same old they've been doing for the last 30 years. That ship don't sail anymore.
I think it's true. They hit the nail on the head in that, part of the problem is you can't drain a swamp, though, unless you have the bottom plug to pull. And you can't pull the bottom plug until you have federal term limits.
Yeah.
You want to talk about something? I think we need federal term limits.
Yeah, I think the state term limit is fine. It's too short. It's a little restrictive. I don't want to get rid of it. Maybe broaden it a little bit. Folks, I'm not going back. You don't have to worry about me. But I do think we lose a lot of institutional knowledge. But where the real problem is, Dean, right, is when you get these princes and princesses, and they hunker down in D.C., they never go back home again to Montana or Colorado or Tennessee or Florida or wherever. They don't even, some of them don't have addresses anymore back home.
Yeah.
And the people don't even know that, but they're figuring out because there's a little thing called the internet, and there's Twitter and Facebook, and people know everything about everybody now, and they're realizing that politicians in D.C. are not serving them.
Well, it's funny, but I respect Mitch McConnell, senator. What a position to have.
Mm-hmm.
He's been there perhaps maybe too long. I mean, I feel like I'm watching Weekend at Bernie's sometimes. And I want somebody younger. I want somebody that's going to be around and have to live through the laws that they're passing. And, so I do think that the public is tired of those incumbents that have been there far too long and need to recognize their time to punch the ticket and get out of town.
Yeah, and what David Brooks was saying there, so as you know, I am a prophet, and I've been talking about this for weeks, actually. I've been saying that you and I and other Republicans are not going to suddenly go to the ballot box next year and go, oh, those congressional Republicans get anything done. I'm going to vote for Nancy Pelosi's people. We're not going to do that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go to the ballot box in the primaries, and we're going to go, is this someone who's been there too long and refuses to work with this? We got a Republican president. He ain't going to be there forever. Time is short. Chop, chop. Let's get going. I served under Blunt, and then I served under Nixon. You had 1 year in Nixon, right?
Yes.
And then, isn't it night and day between Democrat Nixon and Republican Greitens? It's hard to explain it to people, right?
Well, it is, and it's hard to explain to the people that just because we have a new governor that we can't just, steamroll everything.
Can't do everything, but you can do a lot more.
Yeah, the political process has a role, and both sides need to debate it. We got a lot done last year, and I know that we want to talk perhaps about the 2018 legislative
A tremendous
session.
amount done. And so I think what people are going to do, Dean, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I think they're going to go to the ballot box on the federal elections, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to look for primary opposition to these people who have just stayed too darn long in D.C. And it's going to be an insurgent type of primary, just like you saw with Roy Moore in Alabama.
Well, I think that nationally that might be the case. Now, locally, I don't necessarily see that.
No, I don't see that on the state level.
I'm happy.
Don't worry,
with
Dean. You're fine. I'm not recruiting someone. Yeah.
No, at the federal level, I think St. Louis is well represented on the Republican
Yes.
side. So, I think federally, though, it will happen. And I think maybe it should.
And I'm talking about, and I wasn't alluding to anybody here in Missouri. I'm talking about the problem children. Murkowski, Collins, maybe McCain.
Well, maybe McCain. I mean, yes.
I mean, those are the ones that have stopped the Trump agenda in its tracks.
How can you campaign on repeal and then vote not to repeal?
Right.
I don't understand that. So they should be held accountable. So it'll be interesting in a year from now.
Hey, you alluded to you mentioned something right when we were going to the break, and I thought it was fascinating. I don't know that I've heard anybody put it in those terms before. Back to the Stockley case, you feel that it is, and I won't put words in your mouth, but almost a miscarriage of justice that case against Stockley was ever brought in the first place.
Well, with what I've
why would you legally say that?
Well, I think that they had plenty of time to introduce the case well before when they did. There was no new evidence that came out. I think that they shouldn't have gone to grand jury, given the fact that so much time had elapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Since there was no new evidence, they should have had a preliminary hearing on that, which would have given them a much better indication of whether or not they had a case. If you can't prove up a case for issuance in a grand jury, then you really shouldn't even be able to tie your shoe, maybe. So I think the judicial process worked. I very much respect the judicial process, but I see what happened. The people were given a false hope, and they were told a false story of what happened, and they rushed to conclusions. And there's other issues that we need reform on in this city, and I think some of these protesters have some issues that they want addressed, and I think perhaps they're choosing the wrong case to bring this to bear.
That's where I'll say that, yes. I don't want to say that every single person who's been out here protesting is wrong and just out to cause destruction. I think a lot of the folks in the daytime have had a message, but I think you're right. I think they're basing their message on the wrong character because and let's remind folks, all these people who are protesting down here, I'm assuming the large majority of them, if they voted, they probably voted for Barack Obama, okay? Barack Obama's Department of Justice, Eric Holder and company, refused to file charges against Jason Stockley. Refused to file charges. So then we have this, our former prosecutor, Jennifer Joyce, on her way out the door, drops this bombshell. Kim Gardner, who I serve with, then comes in. By the way, she was backed by George Soros. She got Soros-funded money. You can look it up. She does nothing. Lack of leadership by Jennifer Joyce, lack of leadership by Kim Gardner, lack of leadership by the mayor. Now here we are, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of man and woman power and property destruction and people getting hurt for what? For a heroin dealer.
Yes, and then they pass a resolution for him. It's abysmal, and I think what we've hit on here is it's really lack of leadership. The leadership that has been in St. Louis in my lifetime has been a leadership of false hope. What have they delivered? I've been around for almost 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Where has St. Louis gone in the last 50 years?
People have left it.
Yes, and that's a shame because it's a great city, and I love this town, and I'm happy to raise my family here. But we have a lot more to give. We have a lot more to achieve, and I think we need effective leadership in the city to do better.
And Dean, isn't it true that, people like you and I who pretty much grew up here. I mean, I was my folks are both from Missouri. My dad was serving in Vietnam, so we were stationed out of state. But he came right back. I was born in Minnesota. Came right back here. I've pretty much spent most of my life here, except the time I was away in college and law school. St. Louis can't afford to lose more people like us, right? Because they've already lost 500,000 people over the last 50 years. If they lose another 500,000, then it's a ghost town.
It is. It's a shadow of what it once was. It's a shame. I mean, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot to even go out and lobby someone like Amazon to come in and put their headquarters here. I mean, it would be awesome. It'd be great. I'd love to get
But you said we'd be lucky to get what?
I think we'd be lucky to get a froyo right now with the last things what's been going on.
I hate to laugh because it's like I want to cry, because that's kind of where we are. Well, let's shift gears. Let's fill the glass half full now, and we're speaking to Representative Dean Plocher from the great state of Missouri, from the State House, entering his third term. So you're entering your third term, my friend. You're a third of the way through because you get that extra bonus year, special election baby.
I do get that bonus year.
So you get to serve 9 years in the House. So what's on? Well, tell me. You don't have to tell me. What do you think is going to be on the agenda next year? As far as what are you hearing from leadership folks, and also what would you like to work on next year?
Well, I think we'll certainly hit some ethics reform as we've done the last several years. We're going to hit that again. That'll be the first bill brought up if I'm a gambling man. I also think we're going to touch on some labor reform, but I don't see that as being the zealous push that we had last year where it was one of the first things out of the gate. I think we're going to hit paycheck protection and prevailing wage. I think prevailing wage would greatly benefit outstate Missouri, rural Missouri, where they have to pay a disproportionate.
And you've supported all these labor reform issues because
I sat on economic development where we heard all of these
right.
bills.
And for you and I think it's less about the passion and the emotion surrounding trigger words, if I can say that, like right to work and things like that. It's more about the economic reality that, with the exception of the black hole abyss of Illinois, we're surrounded by states that already have all the economic policies that we don't.
The testimony was that, some of these labor reform bills are just really not the silver bullet, but they're certainly the gatekeeper, if you will. If you don't have these laws in effect, companies will not even think about relocating or putting a station or any kind of manufacturing, anything in your state.
Right.
So I want to see Missourians work. I want to see St. Louisans work. And when that happens, you actually pay taxes and you can afford the infrastructure that we need. We have some critical infrastructure issues coming in with transportation. But in moving on, I see some term limit bills coming into the House this year. I also see some municipal reform. The governor vetoed Senate Bill 128 with many, many things on it, and I had a lot on that bill. So I particularly want to work on some of those things that were on that bill that were vetoed. And that concludes some municipal reform for some judicial consolidation and credit for time served, which was an unintended consequence that was in Senate Bill 5, where some of these defendants, I mean, you're charged with a minor traffic violation, and let me stress, this is only minor traffic violations.
Little criminal justice reform, which appeals to both parties.
It does, and I don't think people need to be doing time away from home for running a red light for multiple occasions simply because the law prohibits the judge from allowing them to essentially get credit for time served.
Absolutely. Well, Dean, the time always goes too fast. We've got about a minute here to wrap up. So how can folks follow Representative Dean Plocher? Facebook, Twitter, you got any of that going on?
I'm not as much of a Facebook person as I know many of my peers are. They're younger. I do tweet occasionally, and I do issue online. You can find me on my House website, and I do publish a regular report during the session.
I think you're at Dean Plocher on Twitter, right?
I think so.
You got one of those unique names that nobody can copy, so there's just one.
There's just one of them.
Yeah, just like there's only one Tim Jones. So the left hates my speaker mantra, but I can't drop that because there's a million. I can't have Tim Jones, so it's Speaker Tim Jones. So there you go. Dean, thanks so much for coming in, my friend. It was great having you for all this time. Thank you so much.
Grateful to be here. Thank you, guys.
We'll definitely have you back again. Hey, Ken, thank you as always.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Andrew, thanks for manning the phones. Mom and Dad, I always thank the folks, because without them, you wouldn't be hearing this voice, this melodious, superfluous voice. Katie, Abby, and Suzanne, love you. Be home soon. Tim Jones Show will be back next Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. We may be getting Representative Nick Shore and Bruce Franks in for a little debate action. There we go. That'd be good, right, Dean? Good stuff, right? Yeah. At Speaker Tim Jones on Facebook or Twitter. FM News Talk. Nice, everyone. Keep it right here, y'all.
This is the Tim Jones Show.
Contractors, meeting with your customers can be difficult. Making time to actually sit down and